Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Norfolk Select Board. My name is Kevin Kalkin. I'm the chair of the board. I'm joined by my fellow board members Jim Lehan and Anita Mecklenburg. As our first point of business tonight, I'll ask that everybody please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Justin, would you be so kind as to run us through our agenda this evening?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So we have several action items. One is an announcement of a land acquisition by DCR. We're going to be discussing and consider a vote to approve the community choice aggregation plan that was prepared by Colonial Power. A vote to execute an IT mutual aid agreement with Millis. Approve sort of annual approval of Department of Development Services with Rentham for the Lynn Conservation Land, as well as approving an update in the Select Board schedule. And then we'll have a presentation from the Norfolk Public Schools concerning this warrant article, as well as having capital project presentations by several of our department heads, and then general updates.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So our first item this evening is our public comment period. This is the point of the meeting in which anybody is able to come and share with the board for somewhere in the range of about 3 minutes for items that pertain to the scope of the select board or the town administrator. So at this point, we will open it up. Does anybody have any public comment this evening? I am seeing none. And we will be moving on. Our second item this evening is to consider a DCR land acquisition pursuant to 301 CMR 51.07 for the Bristol Blake State Reservation. Justin, what's our background?
Yes, so as part of the Department of Conservation and Recreation's acquisition of this land, they do require the town select board to announce that they are considering to acquire this land. The plan is to acquire this land to protect it as open space and recreation. There is no action item that the board has to take, except for reading the announcement that the clerk of the board has to read.
Unless anybody has an opposition to reading said announcement.
No, I don't have an opposition. I was just sort of wondering about the authority of the Recreation Commission. Is this a friendly acquisition? Just a curiosity?
It's a friendly acquisition. It's from the Department of Conservation and Recreation. It's essentially to protect that area's open space and so forth.
Cool. Sorry, my brain was bouncing around.
Absolutely.
All right, here I go.
Go for it.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, acting through its Department of Conservation and Recreation, has under consideration the acquisition of approximately 1.2 acres in the town of Norfolk, 2.1 acres in the town of Norfolk. The property is currently forested open space. The proposed use for the property will be protected open space and recreation connecting to Bristol Blake State Reservation. An image of the property is included in the select board packet.
That's all that's required.
Very good. Anything else on this one?
No, sir.
All right, so we'll be moving on to our next action item tonight, which is to discuss and consider a vote to approve the community choice aggregation plan prepared by Colonial Power.
Yes. So tonight, the board has considered the community choice aggregation plan. The public comment period closed on October 23rd at 5 p.m. In your packet, we've included the comment that we did receive. We also have representatives from Colonial Power who are here to address any questions or if you have any comments regarding the plan. If there aren't, we would like for the board to consider approving the plan so we can move forward with DPU and so forth. So that's all I have to add at the moment. No, Denise is from Colonial Power. I don't know if she wants anything to add or if the board has any questions.
Yeah, it's just, we're just looking for a vote tonight to approve or adopt the aggregation plan as the town administrator said, that's been posted for 30 days for public review. And then should the board vote tonight, the next step is to go on to the Department of Energy Resources for a brief consultation and then prepare a full filing for the Department of Public Utilities.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
May I?
Go right ahead.
So in the public comments, somebody suggested the necessity of an energy manager, and I was wondering, is that a position that we're going to be needing in the future, or how do we feel about that?
I think that's something that we can consider. We weren't initially proposing to have energy manager position. Denise, there is an option in terms of regarding that. I don't know if you want to elaborate on what the town can do regarding that, but I think that's something that the town would probably want to have a conversation with the Energy Committee and the Select Board in a future meeting. But Denise, if you want to elaborate on what the town could do with that energy manager position.
Sure, I'll start and Mark, jump in if you have anything to add. So it's just we put it in there in most all of our plans just to allow flexibility once you get the program up and running. As Justin said, it might be something that you want to consider. It's not required, but Colonial will handle all the heavy lifting of the program. The town isn't required to do anything, but if you do get any questions or whatever questions and responsibilities are at the town level, this funding would just have to cover the person who is handling the aggregation plan for the town. So any responsibilities at the town level has to be covered by that role. It doesn't have to be a full-time person. It could be a part-time person that is already at the town and devotes maybe part-time to the aggregation program. Or it could be a full-time person if you're considering an energy manager in the future. Like you said, if you talk to the Energy Committee and that's something you want to consider, but it does provide the town with that flexibility.
Thank you.
There were a number of comments that Andy had made as part of the public comment period that I'm interested to hear more about, mainly how the energy associated to the prison would impact the rate setting moving forward. Is that something that would have a large impact, or feel free to jump in. Yep.
Yep, Mark Capadona, Colonial Power. So it wouldn't have any effect at all because the more likely than not, I don't know this for a fact, but more likely than not, it's not on basic service. It's already out on third-party supply, and their load profile might be something that might be more advantageous on its own. So more likely than not, it will never come back to the aggregation. So that really isn't a worry. Large users like that get a market rate originally on the way in, and the next time they could be in the program. If they were on basic service, they'd be priced in, and they would be allowed to join the program. It has no effect. There's no amount of energy that's needed in the program. The risk is all on the supply community that's taking on these contracts. So you don't need to worry about that at all. It's all inside the ESA, but there's no reason. It's not like other energy contracts where there's a certain amount of usage, meaning if you have a 10% swing one way or the other, could affect pricing. This does not have any of those guardrails on it.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Jim, any questions?
No, I didn't have any questions. No.
I mean, since Andy is here, and Andy, you were the only one who took advantage of our public comment period, I feel obligated to give you a brief moment to share any thoughts or comments.
Kevin, I mean, part of reading through that is it's clearly more or less, it's sort of a boilerplate that I've seen. I mean, a lot of the language is pretty typical for other ones I've read. And Mark, just so you know, the last time the prison went, basically, let's just say the contract was renegotiated. There was a 6-month period that things were in chaos. And the only reason why I know this is because I worked for the prison, and for 20 years I tracked the energy use of the prisons in Norfolk. So I'm not going to say I have a 100% knowledge of what's going on right now, but the contract, I believe, is coming due in the next 2 to 3 years with direct energy. So that's why I asked that, and I probably should have put that background information in there, but still just asking what's the effect of it, and knowing what the prison used and looking at the ISO New England power curve for Norfolk, it's like 22% of the power used in here is used in the prison. So I mean, that's a good chunk of power, which would affect a lot of things. So that's kind of where the question was coming from. But I'm hoping that the contract negotiations with the state are probably a little more streamlined, since they got caught a little shorthanded last time they did this, and there was some chaos. So hopefully things will get squared away and before we get to that point. So. And Kevin, some of the other things that I had asked, I had put down there. Some of it is sort of in my wheelhouse. Some of the things I'm interested in, but at the same time, the word risk, and I think I identified 2 comments that had the word risk. I don't think the town should be assuming any risk in this program at all. And I understand the context those were said, but still using the risk in the town of Norfolk in the same sentence just does not really appeal to me. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's been many cases in the past where, and I'll use Plainville as an example, where the town was actually hit with some substantial charges because of underpurchasing of power, and they had to go after additional power sources from more expensive sources that the fine language and the fine print in the contract allowed that those overages and that more expensive power to be passed down to the customers. And I think some people were in for a big surprise when that happened, and that was a few years ago. And Mark and Denise, I think you may more know details on that. And all I know is from what I read in the paper, plus the fact that Plainville had on negotiations in executive session that were never released. But a few people I know that were in the program in Plainville were a little bit shocked to see some of the increases. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. And this is something that people really need to understand. This is a possibility. I mean, this past summer was pretty warm for a stretch, but wasn't as bad as the previous summer. So, this is something I think that the expected convenience of this program, I would expect the town would see some protection from unusual spikes and potential costs that really weren't anticipated. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thanks, Andy. Mark, Denise, anything to say or provide in terms of insight into the concern that Andy just raised?
Absolutely, and those contracts, so normally those municipal contracts have what we'll call swing pricing, meaning you can use 10% more or 10% less.
Oh,
Hold on, Mark, we lost your audio. Now try.
Can you hear me?
There we go, much better, you're back.
Okay, so, and I'll just start new. Those contracts that he's speaking of, Andy is speaking of, has to do with municipal contracts, and they have swings, meaning you can only have 10% more, 10% less. The contract that the town will sign for its aggregation has absolutely no financial risk to the town. Zero. All the town is doing is bringing its consumers to the marketplace, which the suppliers will then, without contract, bid on that load. But there is no up or down. If there was one customer or 50,000 customers in the program, that is the risk of the supplier. There is no financial risk to any municipal aggregation in Massachusetts for the aggregation itself. The municipal aggregation, not the town buildings. Those are different contracts, and I fully understand that the difference here. But inside our contract, there's no way to get back to the town, because the town does not actually have they sign a contract on behalf of their residents, but if their town buildings aren't in, there's nothing that the town has attached to the aggregation. You may already have a contract for that power, be a separate contract with whatever supplier. You're a third-party supplier like anyone else. The town's program is the town's program, and that price is solid. I mean, so if the price was 12 cents for 36 months, if for some reason basic service went to 6 cents and everyone left the program but one customer, they would still have that 12-cent rate being there. They have to honor that price. Or if it went to 33 cents, like it did two winters ago, well, last winter now, they would still have to deliver that price for all the residential customers. Even if people came flooding in, that's the risk reward of the program.
Fantastic.
But I want to make sure everyone understands there's no risk to the town for dollars. There is no dollar value to the town, specific in the ESA.
Very good. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
All right, does anybody have any other questions?
No.
No? All right, in that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the plan as prepared.
I move to approve the plan as prepared.
Second.
Hearing a second, do we have any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is a unanimous vote. Mark, Denise, thank you so much. Andy, thank you so much for the input. Greatly appreciated. We look forward to moving on with the next steps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
That'll bring up our next item tonight, which is going to be to vote and execute an IT mutual aid agreement with Millis, Justin.
Yes. The town of Norfolk and the town of Millis previously had a shared IT position. Essentially, we split the position in half, and that position would service IT needs in Norfolk and in Millis. Fortunately, we lost that person. They became a full-time employee in the town of Millis. So realizing that the town of Norfolk and Millis still needed some, assistance, particularly until we fill that position, I communicated with the town administrator in Millis, our IT directors. They have a great relationship. We came up with an IT mutual aid agreement to essentially allow our IT director and their IT director to provide some, services in times of critical need until we staff up further. There'll be no costs associated with this. There's no, it's an as-needed agreement, and so Jim and Dawn have a great relationship, and they are on board with this agreement, and myself and the town administrator are on board with this agreement. The Millis Select Board approved it last night, so we're looking for you to give me authority to execute this mutual aid agreement with Millis.
My only question, Justin, was just about the staffing levels associated to this. Previously, time of this employee, now this employee related to full-time status in Millis, did they lose somebody, or did they just add in the extra FTE?
They just gave him the capability to do full-time instead of half-time.
And would we still have access to that individual who has familiarity with our systems and everything?
So Jim was a part of the halftime position. He has familiarity with our system.
Okay.
And Ton has familiarity with Millis' system as well.
Gotcha. That's the only question I had. That sounds like a pretty advantageous agreement from my perspective, but I'll open it up to the rest of the board for any questions.
No, I think it's a good agreement, something we need. My only question I had was, are there any time frames or constraints around timing on this?
No time frames, no constraints there. We really wanted to emphasize that this was an as-needed and as-capable agreement because there's only one person in those positions currently. The town's looking to fill that part-time position, or also looking at potentially reshaping that position because it's a difficult
And we can
position.
get out of it anytime we so choose.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's fabulous. I think that as a small community, sometimes you're a three-legged stool. So by adding agreements like this, it gives us a little more stability and ability to respond in crisis. So I think it's fabulous. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions associated to this item?
Nope.
In that case, I would entertain a motion to execute the IT mutual aid agreement with Millis.
Mr. Chair, I would just add to authorize the town administrator to execute it.
I move to authorize the town administrator to execute an agreement, a mutual aid agreement with the town of Millis for IT support.
Second.
Hearing a second, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Our next item tonight is to vote to approve the long-form license with the Department of Developmental Service, Rentham Developmental Center for access to Lynn Conservation Land.
As the board is aware, annually we execute this license. Since 2016, the state has provided access to the town for conservation land at Lynn Farm. I always emphasize that there's no cost associated with this, except for plowing in the winter, which DPW does, as well as cleaning up some trail maintenance at times. But we appreciate them allowing the town to have access to that land, and this is just an annual vote that we have to take.
Very good. I don't have any questions. Questions from the rest of the board?
None?
In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the long-form license.
You're up, Anita.
All right.
This is another one where
Authorize.
Yes, thank you.
I vote to authorize the town administrator to approve the long-form license with the Department of Developmental Service, Rentham Developmental Center for access to Lynn Conservation Land.
Oof, nailed it. Nice job.
Thank you.
Do we hear a second?
You didn't like my job on the one before?
Well, I mean, she went
I was just
right
curious.
through it.
Okay.
Do need that second, though.
Second.
Hearing a second, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Our next item is to vote to approve the upcoming select board schedules as follows. We have Tuesday, November 7th, Tuesday, November 14th, which is going to be our pre-town meeting. We have Tuesday, November 21st. Ooh,
I know.
Tuesday, November 21st.
Yes.
I believe that we will be at Fenway cheering on the KP football team that night.
Oh, I believe we will be at Fenway cheering on the football team that night.
I think we have to move that earlier, the time to do the meeting. If we can do the meeting earlier, maybe via Zoom. The reason why that meeting needs to be done, and this is a good catch, is because we will be setting the tax rate at that meeting.
Say that again, Justin?
We'll be setting the tax rate at the November 21st meeting. So our assessor particularly we need to have that meeting.
So earlier, if the game is at 7:30 at Fenway Park,
Is there capability to meet the Monday?
I would much rather meet in the evening on Monday than I would try to push it to the early afternoon on Tuesday. Because I do want people usually do take an interest in the tax rate.
I cannot meet on Monday, the 20th. That is a school committee meeting for me.
I'm available, but that's,
Is earlier in the day
I
capable?
can meet earlier on Tuesday if one wishes, but I cannot meet the 20th. And I know we have a very long agenda on the 20th at the school committee.
Is there anything else on the agenda right now for that meeting?
There's the other items. I think we could move it around if necessary, but that we need to set the tax rate that week. So we could either make it a very light lift on the 21st and have it earlier, or a light lift on the 20th and have it earlier, and just make it that one agenda item.
What time is the school
I can meet
committee?
at 6. My meeting is at 7, but I need to be there by 7:15, so I could meet at 6.
on Monday.
As long as I'm out of here by 20 of.
Yeah, it shouldn't take more than 40 minutes for the tax hearing.
Is there any public posting for that or not?
Not that's any different than
No.
any other meeting.
Yeah, no.
And
No.
we're plenty of time to
Yeah.
make a change.
Can you keep the agenda to a half hour?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can, we had some other agenda items, but we can move those around. Yeah. And we have the December 5th meeting as well, so, yeah, we can make that work.
So we're going to move it to the 20th at 6, but to try and get out of there by 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Dawn will appreciate that as well.
Moving from 21st to 20th at 6 p.m. Here, right?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Jim.
No, not at all. I know our meeting on the 20th is going to be a long one, so.
I'm putting in here that it's only going to go to 6:30, so it shall be done.
Because it's in the Google
Because
Calendar.
it's in the calendar now for only a half an hour. The rest of the meetings on the calendar are, as Justin had mentioned, Tuesday, December 5th, Tuesday, December 12th, with a potential Zoom format, Tuesday, January 9th, and Tuesday, January 23rd. Aside from our shift from the 21st to the 20th, I think I'm okay with the rest of the slate. Jim?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. Yep.
Anita?
Good catch on that day, and it looks good to me.
Very good. Anything else on the schedule? Do you need us to vote?
Yeah, the board's typically voted the schedule.
Okay.
I move to approve the agenda as presented, as amended for the Tuesday, November 20th meeting to begin at 6 p.m.
Second.
Hearing a second, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Our next item this evening is a presentation from the Norfolk Public Schools. Justin, do you want to lead us in?
So here with us tonight is Vicky Saldano and School Committee Chair Medora Champagne. I believe they're going to give a present as well as ask about possibly pre-advertising for the Norfolk School Building Committee.
Please feel free to come join us up here.
Sit in the comfy chairs.
Welcome.
So I have a little background. Ingrid apologizes for her inability to be here tonight, but I think we can do her proud with data, so see what we can do. Yep. Okay, so that's 2 slides. All right, so thank you for having us tonight and providing an opportunity to provide an update on the status of the school expansion project and the proposed warrant articles for upcoming town meeting. Just briefly reviewing the project history and timelines, and then we're intending to go into some updated enrollment data that we have, some trends that we're seeing, and kind of what we're looking to do going forward to make sure we are covering everyone's bases and making sure we're proceeding in the most responsible but effective way possible. All right, just making sure my notes match up with your timeline. As you are aware, the Norfolk Public Schools and the town of Norfolk established a space study committee back in 2017 in response to rising concerns about the amount of development happening across town and the potential impact of that development on school enrollment. As a first step, a space study committee was formed and opted to hire a professional demographer to conduct a comprehensive study of the town and develop a data-driven projection for future enrollment. NESDEC conducted that demographic study, and their enrollment study verified that growth in town was expected to yield a significant increase in the number of school-age students in Norfolk and would likely impact educational programs and space significantly over the next 10 years. While the space study considered numerous options to accommodate the anticipated growth, that team ultimately determined that the most cost-effective and appropriate solution was to consider an expansion project at the Freeman Kennedy School. In May 2022, Norfolk Public Schools, through the school committee, brought forth a warrant article requesting funding for a full feasibility study to study expanding Freeman Kennedy. There was an abbreviated presentation at town meeting and some question and answer. The advisory board recommended supporting the request for funding, and it passed unanimously in May 2022. As a result, with funding appropriated, the school committee, through its building subcommittee, which included the facilities director, the superintendent, some committee members, Vicki Saldana, I don't think I'm missing anybody at that point, right? Went through a public bid process for the feasibility work. We ultimately selected AI3 Architects. A second request involved, it was a $225,000 request to fund feasibility, studying only a brick and mortar expansion of the Freeman Kennedy School. And I've covered the rest of my notes already. So throughout the course of feasibility, 2 things were happening. One, the school committee, with select board approval, was submitting grant funding requests to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or MSBA. Unfortunately, the district was not invited to participate in the MSBA program due to the enrollment issues. At the same time, we were consistently continuing to study the enrollment to verify the accuracy of NESDEC's projections, and we had some updated enrollment projections conducted during that time frame as well. The enrollment data and projections are available through school committee presentations, and then actual hard data is available through DESE. Vicki is also here, who is going to speak a little bit more to, if you want to go to the next slide, the enrollment projections that we have, the data that we have, what we're seeing currently, and what we're hoping to get a little more clarity around as we move forward into the next phase of feasibility.
Yeah, so the next couple of slides, I just want to unpack a little bit some of the information about what the enrollment trends have been going on, and obviously because of the pandemic, that definitely affected some of our data, so I just wanted to kind of clarify that. So on the left hand of the slide, you can see that the NPS actual enrollment by grade level for each of the last 5 years. In 2018, we contract with NESDEC to conduct a demographic study. Enrollment projections from the study are in the center green column. As you can see, for the first 2 years, the study kind of really came close to what they predicted to what enrollment was. In the year of 2021, obviously that was in the middle of the height of the pandemic. Our schools shut down. We came back with hybrid. So that's where the discrepancy starts to begin between what NESDEC predicted versus what our enrollment numbers were. But if you take a look on the other side the, like, yeah, that part, thank you, that part right there. You can see that we've almost doubled in homeschool enrollment as well as our private school enrollment increase, in our charter school numbers have increased. And we feel that there's like numerous factors that affected data for that year. Because of the COVID, more parents were working from home and were probably able to support homeschooling programs. The fact that some private schools were able to bring students back full-time faster than public schools were. And there's no way that NESDEC could have predicted, obviously, this effect. So in 2020, we asked NESDEC to update their projections prior to seeking funding for the feasibility study to ensure that we had the most recent and relevant data. You will see that in 21 and 22, our enrollment went up by 37 students, and another 26 opting for homeschool or private school settings. If you notice, if you continue in the chart between 21, 22, 22, 23, that our homeschooling numbers and our private school numbers continue to increase. They almost have, doubled since the previous years. This is actually in line with the national and state level, where there have been approximately a 30% increase in the number of students being homeschooled and about an 8% increase in private school enrollment. So that trend is actually aligned with what is happening now at the state and national level. There are several models that show that this peaked in 22, 23 and is starting to trend down, but we do feel this is something that we should need to study further to really understand how this change might impact future enrollment growth. But it is aligned with what we're seeing. A lot of our students that are enrolling out of district are seeking, if you can just go to the next slide, thank you, are going for religious-based programming. So schools like Blessed Sacrament and Mercy Mount are receiving more of our students. So that's what we feel like we wanted to kind of take a look into why this trend is continuing to increase. One of the things that we also want to kind of consider that as a public school system, like obviously not to be on the nose, but at any point the families can select to enroll the students back into our system. So we have to be able to absorb these numbers, which would really actually put us above the projected NESDEC numbers. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So, because when you look at the enrollment by building, it's easy to understand why HOD schools completely overcrowded. In 2012, HOD has grown by 117 students. Freeman Kennedy, as the graph shows, experienced kind of fluctuation, but is currently at 548 students, which is where we were when we opened the Freeman School. As was mentioned before, when we built the school with the MSBA, we were only allowed to build to accommodate, we couldn't allow it to accommodate future growth. We had to only build for the current numbers. So Freeman opened at full capacity when it was built back then. One of the concerns that we're kind of having in terms of the trend that we're seeing as reported by NESDEC is that our current third grade class is the largest class with 163 students. We have 8 third graders. Usually previously the classes have fluctuated between 6 classes and 7 classes. So this is one of the largest third grades that we've had so far. Our second largest classrooms is kindergarten and grade 2, which has 166 and 144 students respectively. And those classes are going to be rolling up to Freeman Kennedy. So, and as HOD continues to grow. You can just go to the next. Thank you. Additionally, one of the things that we wanted to highlight is that the demographic study that was completed looked at housing trends in Norfolk, as well as the type of homes that are being built and developed that are coming online. And statistic models predict that based on the size and cost of many of these homes, they're more likely to bring in older students because new families, they sometimes might get outpriced by Norfolk. So enrollment growth over the next 5 years at Freeman Kennedy is actually expected to surpass growth at HOD. Based on the NESDEC model, FK is predicted to increase by 148 students by the 26-27 school year. think that the next part, kind of, we were going to talk about the warrant article, but I wasn't sure if you had any, do you want to wait for questions till after, or are there any specific enrollment questions you would like to? Not sure how.
I'll open up to the board. I'm good with waiting until the end, though.
Okay. So, can we go to the next one? Thank you. So the next part that I wanted to kind of highlight is our, well, I'm sorry. There we go. I'm sorry. I was like, oh, my nose. So this is just the map of the school as compared to 2012 versus 2024. And I just wanted to highlight just a few changes that we had to make at HOD to be able to accommodate the growth over the past 10 years. So as you can see in 2012, we have, which are in red, we had 5 classrooms devoted to our pre-K program. And in 2024, which is this year, we have 6 rooms required to serve the pre-K population. Our pre-K demand has increased over time with approximately 70 families on the waiting list. So the reason we didn't put pre-K numbers in our demographic enrollment because it's a capped number. We have limited amount of students that we're able to accept. So if we were able to fully open the program, it would be a lot larger. We only provide programming right now to meet the needs of students with disabilities as we are required by law, and as well as peer models necessary to provide an integrated early childhood programming. You will.
Can you just repeat that number one more time? How many families are on the waiting list for pre-K right
We
now?
have 70 families on the
70.
70, 70,
70.
yes. It's I think that because working families, it is, it's really convenient for families to be able to have preschool and pre-K programming in town. So it's no surprise, and especially with the growth.
But she's not saying it, but it's an excellent program. It's a really dynamic program, so parents want their kids in it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have, thank you.
Its selection is limited by a lottery in the spring for the
Right.
typical peer groups. Obviously, anyone who qualifies for the service based upon need is incorporated in, but you build the classrooms around them with typical peers. So in the lottery, I mean, it is a fraction of the number of individuals who would like to send their children to pre-K in town.
Yeah, and there's a lot of obviously benefits to, like I have to speak to about early childhood education, having access, being in town, being able to build those peer relations, to be able to move on through the school system. So it's understandable why we have such an extensive waiting list. So in 2012, we had 5 kindergarten classrooms, and currently we have 8 kindergarten classrooms. That has been the trend over the last couple of years. On the right in blue, you will see that 2 additional classrooms that have been added to meet the increase of student enrollment by 117. If you can just look at the ones in pink, you will see that office spaces and other instructional spaces that have been repurposed to renovate and serve as instructional settings. So for example, the stage right now is a technology office. So because we've had to repurpose the technology office as an instructional space. We have a tech server equipment room that was enclosed and now doubles as where our math specialists provide services to students in it. So we've taken a closet per se space, enclosed the server, and then this has become like the math specialist room. Also, the teacher's copy room was moved and repurposed as a special education classroom. So we have now 3 special education teachers and a paraprofessional that share that space, and they provide services in that space. And obviously, it's not optimal because we put dividers up, but it's still a very small space that can have. It's hard to have small group and have focused instruction when there's so many different groups running at the same time. I also want to that the library closet was repurposed as the adjustment counselor's office, and we also have our students who are English language learners has more than doubled over the last couple of years, and that is something that is a space that is also in need. So we'll be able to provide support for those students. So as you can see, we have really tried to utilize every nook and cranny right now in the school to be able to accommodate our growing student students population. We had music on a cart for 2 years. We were able to provide a classroom this year because we had our grade 1 classroom, we were able to reduce it by 1 classroom because we had students that were either moved out of district or were retained in kindergarten for growth experience here. So, but that's gonna be set back. So right now, music is in a classroom, but it's temporary. It's for a year. It's gonna go back in the cart. The next space to be lost is the art room that we will have to once we continue to grow. I think we can go to the next slide.
Sure, so we just wanted to give an update as to where we landed with AI3 resulting from the feasibility study that was conducted so far. I feel like I'm getting feedback, I'm going to push that away, but looking at what AI3 recommended for appropriate space to handle the growing enrollment, this is an outline of what the overall cost for both construction and then the incorporated soft cost that would be associated with what was being proposed by AI3, which was an addition connecting the 2 back wings of Freeman Kennedy, totaling around 36,000 square feet, which would allow us to relocate the early ed and special ed portions of programming from H. Olive Day to the Freeman Kennedy School. So the total cost associated with that would be $36,888,250,000, or $250 rather. This is a projection based upon feasibility, so it's certainly not a bid, it's not a hard price, but it's a good estimate of where we think we might land should we move forward with that project. Obviously, that's not an insignificant amount of money, and it's not an insignificant project. So in the interest of presenting all responsible, reasonable options to the town, because this is a town issue, not just a schools issue, we are proposing the 2 warrant articles that we have on this fall's town meeting warrant. So I think, yep, there we go. So I believe you guys have already seen these, but just for the sake of refreshing everyone's recollection, we have an article to appropriate funds to conduct expanded feasibility, to look at any other options that might present a solution that is both fiscally responsible and meets the long-term needs of the district. So the funding, I think, that would be tied to that would be around $83,000 for additional feasibility, another $15,000 to work with a demographer to, again, conduct some enrollment projections, and some additional funding that would allow us to explore any other options that might come up during feasibility. In addition, the school district and the school committee do think that it's time at this juncture that a full building committee be established to explore the options that are available to solve the enrollment and the spacing issues with the school district. So that would be formed pursuant to the town's bylaws, and would include, representation from the schools, from the town, and then individuals who might be willing to volunteer their time to serve on that board as well.
And I think we're requesting, because of the tight timeline, to avoid a town stopgap solution, to allow us to advertise for community members who would like to serve on building committee. So if it passes during town meeting, we can move to interviewing and appointing, just so that we're able to kind of get everything together and be able to conduct the study, in a timely manner. So I think that is our request for your consideration.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I am assuming there are questions.
There are a few. I will defer to my fellow board members, primarily Nita.
I first want to say thank you. I know firsthand from having worked at HOD how the space crunches, and I know the impact. I think it's easy to sit at home and say, oh, what does it matter that music is moving around and they don't really need their own room, and music isn't what it was when we went to school. And you see a typical music class and it starts out with movement, and it ties into children's learning around coding and the alphabet, and it's really an important part of the programming offered at H. Olive Day. space. So my heart hurts to see all those spaces, and I admire the cleverness of moving a copy room so you can have more instructional space. So thank you for that. And I love the idea of the building committee being broader and bringing in. I think that's a really excellent idea and an excellent plan. And I don't know that I have anything specific at this time.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Well, I don't think tonight is actually the time to get into a lot of your questions. I support your new articles, and I thank you for doing that. Just some ancillary comments. You have no greater supporter for schools than me, but I was very concerned about the proposal that was brought forward before. And I'm thinking of it from a broader perspective. We have an aging population in Norfolk. We have a lot of people that are becoming are struggling to meet the needs. We are residential tax based, 95%. Nothing we can do about that. It's going to stay the same. So I just hope that this project will be based on pure need and not want to have. And there is a distinct difference. And so I'm glad you're going to look at alternatives. The cost, we have 2 schools. We've had 5 school projects approved in this town in the last 30 years. So schools are very favorably thought of, and I've supported every one of them, and will support this if it is appropriate and the needs justify it. And so I'm glad you're taking a redirection, if you will, and taking a fresh look at this. And if it comes up that we need it, you'll certainly have my vote. But I do hope that you will look at this from a pure needs perspective and not a want to have. And I understand both sides, believe me. I absolutely understand both sides. But when you look at the impact of the fire station and now the Tri-County, what's coming off the books isn't going to touch what's going on the books.
Right.
So we just have to be sensitive to that because the taxpayers are going to have to pay for this, and it's not going to get reimbursed. So I want to see a needs-based project.
Absolutely, and I think that this is why we definitely appreciate the situation, and I think that having a building committee that will be able to, the purpose of the building committee, we really want to make sure that all the stakeholders are at the table, that we have an opportunity to really take a look and do what is best for the future of this town, for the future of families. Yeah. And I think that this will give us the ability to do that, and to make sure that when we do come with a proposal, that we're able to look at all the options, really answer all the questions that might have arisen from this previous study, so that everybody feels really good about the proposal that's being presented at the town meeting.
Yeah, and the other comment I'd make is that when this study was done, you were in a different environment than you're in today. And I think that will change some of your projections. Interest rates on Norfolk the last 10 years has had its highest building rate in its history, largest growth. That is not projected for the next 10 years for a lot of reasons. One, we're running out of land and opportunities of that nature, but you're seeing a different type of purchaser in Norfolk than you did 10 years ago. Right. And interest rates are slowing down production. So you're not going to see the building that we've seen in the last 10 years. And so I think a fresh look at that is a healthy thing to do because we're in a different situation than we were 3 years ago.
Right, absolutely agreed, yeah. Which is
I think it's important
Plainville,
to note.
just one other comment, Plainville and Rentham both had substantial growth projections 5 years ago. They are now projecting decreasing in enrollments. So, and I'm taking out the unique situation that's in Plainville, which is not within anyone's control at this point in time, but just in terms of residents, they're showing a decrease.
It's 100% accurate, and I think that what makes the NASDAQ projections or any demographer's enrollment projections valuable are that they take into account when they're actually crunching these numbers to come up with the figures, and it's one of the reasons they're so accurate. It's not hypothetical building projects. It's projects that have construction permits, it's building permits that have been issued, and it's active home sales trends. So one of the reasons we've consistently been having the enrollment projections redone is because we want to make sure that they're accurate. Unfortunately, a 5-year estimate is the most accurate estimate that you can get for that very reason. You're not kind of saying hypothetically this is what could happen or could not happen. But I think that just from the standpoint of needs versus wants, no part of me wants to come to the town and ask for $36 million. I truly don't. That said, I think that in the event that you are going to undertake a project of any magnitude, and anything that is going to be done to address this issue is going to be a project of magnitude, whether that is a third site, if we're going to explore that, whether that is modular classrooms, which are not substantially cheaper than a brick and mortar expansion. My goal, and I think the goal of the school committee up until this point, and I'm assuming that will be the goal of the building committee, is to find a solution that is both fiscally responsible but meets the long-term needs of the district, so that we are not back before this board in a short time frame seeking another option and looking for additional funding. I fully recognize that the impact of Tri-County, that the impact of the fire station is significant to every taxpayer in this town. Regardless of whether you have a child enrolled in schools or not. So, from my personal standpoint, I wouldn't want to bring something forward that I didn't think was responsible and appropriate for the issues that the district is facing.
Well, I don't want to leave you with a misunderstanding of my comments. I completely agree with what you said. I'm not suggesting you wouldn't do that by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I was part of the development of the H. Olive Day School, and we wanted those extra classrooms from day one because we knew we were going to need them. Town wouldn't approve it. We had to go back. I could go through a litany of efforts when I was on that committee of what we tried to do in Bill. So I applaud what you're doing, and I know the agony that you're going to go through to get it done.
Well,
Let me just finish the comment, because I don't want you to misunderstand it. What I say by needs and wants is that you have a need for classrooms. And if that proves to be the case, then I would just hope that the project, and I agree with you, there's a symbolic presence of everything being cheaper if you do modules or put trailers in the backyard, and the truth of the matter is it isn't, and I understand that. I've done that analysis, and I agree with you. We went through all of this on multiple projects. So I don't misconstrue what I meant by that. I just, you need to be sensitive to it. That's all I'm saying, and I'm not suggesting you're not. But this is going to be a burden on the taxpayer that we don't even, Tri-County is a wild card for us because it's all based on enrollment. So we don't know what that kind of compensation is going to be or what we're going to have to pay in the next 3 or 4 years for that to happen. So it's a very fluid item for us right now, trying to balance this. And we don't have a lot coming off the books. That's my only point. Just, we have to be sensitive to that side. And I'm not suggesting you're not. And there's nothing more important than the classroom in this town. Nothing more important. It dictates the value of every house in this community. So I agree.
And we feel the request is reasonable. We understand, like I said, and I think one of the things that we value in this town is a strong partnership, like you said, and we know you are strong supporters as a school. I think like we have a mutual goal is to really kind of do, again, a well-rounded, we can take a look at it again and make sure that whatever the plan we put forth will really meet, like I said, the needs of all parties involved and being understanding of like
Appreciate that.
what you also have in front of you that you have to also fund, so I think that, like I said, having a building committee would really give us an opportunity to bring all, like I said, the right voices, you know what I mean, so that we can really take a critical look at what exactly the need is, and how we can best meet it. So.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
I had a couple of quick points. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, like Jim had said as well, but I had a quick question about, you had said the number of students requiring ESL classes had doubled. Do you know what the actual figures for that is?
We have 53 students right now that are considered English language learners in our district.
And historically, that had been a number that was under 10.
Got it.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Hearing that there's 70 families waiting for pre-K,
Well, school committee member.
never got in.
for
I'm in
yeah.
the same boat. I never got in either, but I didn't realize that it was that vast, that there was that many families who aren't being able to take advantage of that
It
service.
is in huge demand. It's a great program.
When I see numbers like 48 kids who are going to private school up from 21 in 2018, I have to wonder if there's something else. I mean, I hear what you're saying about the percentages being in line in the trend that you're seeing around the state, but I have to wonder if things like not having a technology room anymore at HOD, or some of these services that are dropping off because of the space constraints are pushing people to go and find other options for education, which in turn does hurt our district because we're losing money on each one of those students that goes out.
And I mean, more so even for the charter school
Yep.
students who are leaving because tuition dollars actually follow them.
Exactly.
That I mean, it is a concern. And I think there are a number of excellent charter schools close by, with enough proximity to make it not inconvenient to make that choice for your child. I know, anecdotally from my personal perspective as a parent, kindergarten, first grade, second grade look very different now than they did when I sent my now 15-year-old child through HOD. It's just a very different experience, and class sizes will suffer, and it's certainly, I don't think that, fine arts, which is part of a well-rounded early education curriculum and elementary curriculum, should be relegated to a cart. I don't think that anybody necessarily thinks that, but it is a concern, and I do think that probably does play into some of the choices that are being made by families in the town.
Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to make sure that we balance the initiative of being able to remain fiscally responsible in this proposal to the town against our responsibility to be able to provide what we would consider to be fairly basic services for what people would expect coming into a town like this. Because we do have a responsibility to meet that expectation as well. I do know that Justin is very well aware of my distinct desire to have comparative data whenever we have the opportunity. So if we were able to look at just a breakdown of this same kind of look, but for the area or the region, I think it would be helpful to be able to compare and identify that, we're right in line, or we do have an outlier here or there that we need to dig into a little bit more, at least from my perspective. Thank you for going through the numbers associated to what's being asked for in the articles. I don't think that the numbers were actually in the article text itself. Is that right?
In terms of the number, the figure?
Yeah.
No, it'll be in the motion. And I believe at the advisory committee, there was a number.
We did, I can even, those were the round number estimates for the few.
150,000.
It is.
Yeah, I think I have the breakdown if you give me.
Not even, no, it's, sure, it's 83,000 for feasibility, around an additional 50,000 if an option above and beyond modulars is to be explored through feasibility, which, if not utilized, would obviously not be taken. Yeah. And then I think it was approximately $13,000 for the demographer, which is the...
So about 150.
Yep, right around 150.
And that kind of leads into my last question. Expanded feasibility. I think that originally there was the idea of modulars that was brought up, and I think that was kind of the core intent of the expansion, but the verbiage there seems to leave it a little bit more broad and wide open to be able to accommodate for other options. Is there going to be an avenue where one specific option is going to be explored primarily, and then if we determine that there are other options, then we can go into it deeper with that extra $50K? Or is it really just explore everything and try to hone in on the best option?
The primary option that's going to be explored is modular classrooms.
Got it, okay.
We want to give ourselves, room and runway to explore, we're the building committee rather, room and runway to explore additional options. So building something new on a third site in town has drawbacks that we have been addressing since 2017. I don't need to, drag you all down that rabbit hole, but aside from the cost of building, which would be the same as an addition or modulars, you run into the situation where you have to fully staff and administrate a third site. We're also limited by the fact that the town doesn't really own abundant property that would be suitable for something like that, but we're not, again, we want to explore all of the opportunities and options that may be on the table, so it's possible that could be under consideration. It would really, again, become a function of what the building committee felt was appropriate. But at this juncture, the exploration of feasibility and the costs associated with modular classrooms is really the next logical layer of consideration to happen at this point.
Gotcha, thank you. And I lied, I have one more question, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Does the new timeline that we're looking at, where we're going to be potentially hearing about the updates to the feasibility study at some point later in 2024, is that accurate? Does that give us the ability to apply to MSBA once more, or was it a 3 and out type of such a situation?
MSBA is not 3 and out. I think that, I won't, I think we're in a situation right now where we have applied 3 times and been rejected. In addition, over the past, let's see, when was FK first approved? It was around 2010. So in the past 13 years, the town of Norfolk has benefited from 3 rounds of MSBA grant funding. It received almost half of the funding for Freeman from MSBA, over $1 million, I believe, for the roof replacement at H Hall of Day, and will benefit from the now, I think, $100 million, give or take a little bit, that MSBA is putting towards Tri-County. Again, it's not a 3 and out thing, but I do think that Norfolk has certainly been on the receiving end of the benefits of partnering with MSBA. The likelihood of that happening again in the near future, to me, seems relatively low.
Got it. Thank you.
We're planning that if we don't get the funding.
You left out KP. They gave money for KP as well.
KP, and just the fact that, so for example, in Rentham, MSBA, I believe, is in the feasibility stages with them for a replacement of the Roderick School. So there are schools that are facing both enrollment issues and substantial infrastructure issues where, demolishing and replacing is what they're talking about, much like Tri-County. So while not being invited into the MSBA program does not indicate that the enrollment issue does not exist in town. It is not coupled with enough kind of ancillary and attendant need to put us at the top of the priority list, frankly.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Not at this time.
All right. I do believe that you need a vote from us to approve the next steps with the building committee. Is that correct?
I think it was just to get general approval from the board to pre-advertise.
To advertise for so you can see applications.
Because ultimately, town meeting is going to vote on whether or not to approve the building committee. So the request was to preemptively advertise for the committee in advance of that. When I spoke with Dr. Alardi, the goal was to have this ready for the 21st meeting. So I think it'll be the 5th meeting where you might make selections for people. But that's what their intent was.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, so we don't need an official vote, but from my perspective, I think that makes perfect sense. Does anybody on the board
Yeah,
disagree?
I'm fully supportive. Yep.
Very good. All right, so it looks like we have some direction there.
Wonderful. If you know any architects or engineers that are looking for fun ways to spend weeknights, please encourage them to apply.
Kevin's not interested in jumping on another building committee?
I don't think that anyone wants public records of that interaction happening. So.
Wise decision.
Well, thank you both very much.
It is a
Thank you very much
thankless
for
and
your time.
painful project.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time.
Ingrid would be proud of you.
Thanks.
All right, our first discussion item this evening is a capital project presentation. Justin, what do we have?
Yes, as the board's aware, previous select board meeting, we ran through the warrant and we discussed capital. The select board did want to hear back from some of our department heads with some of the more, some of the more larger big ticket items. So tonight we have the DPW director, fire chief, and our facilities director. They have presentations as well to answer any questions that you may have. All of them had appeared before the advisory committee, and the advisory committee did approve of the capital list. Thinking maybe have our DPW director come first. I think he has a presentation. Our facilities director afterwards has a presentation, and then fire chief can run through his capital. And our finance director is here if you have any other further questions.
Thank you. Welcome, Blair.
Good evening. Blair, how are you?
All right. I believe that I have what you have here already, so I'll just kind of give you the top overview here. So the DPW, we obviously looked at a number of needs throughout not just the DPW, but through the water department as well. This overview will touch base on road construction, which aligns with past requests to supplement our Chapter 90 funding. A wheeled excavator, which is something that we tried to get last year. For 2 years in a row now, we've been predominantly using a wheeled excavator to do roadside mowing. It has, especially with all the rain we've had this year, it has been a hot topic throughout town. So we would like to expand on that program, as well as pick up some slack in a couple of other departments. A number of vehicles that are no longer serviceable and have been taken out of circulation for safety reasons. And then get into a couple of water projects. You may be familiar with the Village Green and Stanhope Drive project that was part of the ZBA for a project there. So we are looking to replace a water main there. Same with Seekonk Street. We are in the midst of doing a culvert project there and would like to replace the water main that goes through that culvert. The big ticket item that I have here is for automatic meter reading replacement program. That is essentially turning the radio transmitter system that we have today that is quickly being antiquated and get it replaced with a cloud-based system as part of our permit with DEP. They have certainly like the idea of residents being able to monitor their own usage on in timely basis. So certainly looking at that, as well as the fact that the current meters that we have are made in Israel and we're having a tough time getting them. I'm not sure that's going to get any better anytime soon. So large ticket item there. And then, like I said earlier, a couple of water vehicles. So I can go through them one by one in detail if you'd like, or tried to make my slides as descriptive as possible, but I can certainly go through them slide by slide if you'd like to.
The high-level outline was satisfactory for my inquiries into the breakdown, but I will open up to the board members for their feelings about more detail or less detail.
No, I'm fine.
I think I'm fine as well. I appreciate the slides, and thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Blair.
They're easy.
Great. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
Saving
Take
all
care.
of our.
Hey, how are you, bud? Good to see you.
How's it going, Matt? How are you?
Thanks, yourself?
Good, thank you.
The old library broiler, huh?
Yeah, so this one, we do our preventative maintenance every year for the boilers around town, and it was discovered that this boiler had a crack in it, as you can see. So we tried taking the easy way out and just having it repaired, and it didn't work. After testing, it has a small drip. So the next step is to replace it, and they're getting away from doing the cast iron boilers now. So we have to go with the high energy efficient boiler. I think for that one, we had it about 100,000. Go next slide, man. So this is what it looked like after the repairs, and it was still leaking. Next, please. So at the Freeman, about a year ago, or less than a year ago, we noticed a section of the wall is starting to part from the rest of the building. As you can see, all the grout lines. It's about half an inch, a little less than half an inch. So we think there's water getting in there with the contraction and expanding. It's pushing it out. So this one was we need to get a structural engineer to see like what the main problem is and why this is happening, and then to repair it. And that's,
Just out of curiosity, what would it cost them?
well, that one we have down is 135. 35 of it being towards structural engineer.
Okay.
And as you can see, this is the electrical room, and it appears to have been coming in the wall, and it makes for a dangerous situation with all that electricity in there. Next, please. So as you all know, our ongoing issues at the library and the sprinkler system. And we had a third-party inspection about a year ago. And eventually, that whole system has to be replaced. So in the meantime, H.L. Day has one of these nitrogen generators, and it was suggested to us to get one of these installed because it pumps nitrogen into the system, helps get rid of helps slow down the corrosion by pushing out the oxygen, drying out the pipes better. And for this, when we do eventually, or look at getting a new sprinkler system in the building, this stays with it, can be used with it. And this one we had down for 15. And that's it for those.
Just out of curiosity, broad strokes, how much would it cost to replace the entire sprinkler system at the library?
Well, when we had one of our guys come, I think that's not exactly, but I'd say pretty close. We're going up towards $1 million.
Wow.
Because not only that, they suggested these sprinkler companies, most of them aren't going to do the ceilings either, so we'd have to get another company. They have to take down all the ceiling grids, all the ceiling tiles. They just can't feed the pipes up through them because some of them, 10, 8 feet. So.
Well, very much look forward to that.
Never easy, is it?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
No, I have no questions.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Matt, nice to have you on
Matt.
board.
Thanks. Have a good
care.
night.
All right.
Erin, these are all my questions for you. I hope you're ready.
You
Only one
typed them
page?
up in advance?
So I don't have a big presentation like I've done in the past. I think it's our capital's rightfully so pretty lean. We got a big successful project going, so tried to keep it that way. One thing that I did want to cover is we were successful in doing an AFG grant, a regional grant with the city of Franklin, or the town of Franklin. We had put in for it 2 years in a row. This year we were successful. Our grant match for the grant is for our portion is $26,540. And that is the 10% match. From that grant, we are going to be able to replace every single portable radio within the department. The grant allows us to have one portable radio for every seated position and apparatus. So that allows us to cover all of our personnel plus have some spares, which is really important. The total value of the grant, including Franklin, is $700,000.
Wow.
So we were very fortunate to do that. We'll be one of the first departments in the state of Massachusetts to have us in Franklin to have fully NFPA compliant portable radios, from taking advantage of this AFG grant. So that's one of our capital items, is providing that match. The other is our repeater project. We've had some issues over the past few years, or in my time here, with our repeater system. We've done some repairs, but the last time we had all come out, and even a company called Goosetown out of Connecticut, who were the original company that did some of that work 15 to 20 years ago. Our repeater system for the fire department currently they don't even make parts for it or anything. So if we have another failure or another issue with that, we're going to be in a rough situation. So we did apply for state earmark, and we were successful, which covers a fairly significant portion of that. We did explore trying to divide the project over 2 different fiscal years, and speaking with Allcom and the technicians that would be conducting or doing the work. The way the technology is now, the repeaters have the various types of devices like GPS sensors and the voters in them, and if we didn't do both sites simultaneously, we'd basically be operating the exact same way we are now, just with one brand new repeater and one that is antiquated. So it was considered to be in the best interest for us to do it all at one time with the project. So that is our biggest ticket item that is new, is that repeater system, which all in, that's $190,000, but the town share is $145,000 because we do have the earmark grant taking care of that. Let's see my notes. The other item we have is, something we've been maintaining, and the town has done a great job at helping us basically get to a point where we are having all of our PPE for our personnel be within its 10-year compliance. We have, with the money the town has allotted to us over the years, we've been able to catch up, and we are now starting to strategically roll more money into our operating budget to handle this expense, as opposed to coming back every year asking for capital. That has been under the guidance of our town administrator and finance director, and we are just incrementally increasing that expense line each year, so that I won't be coming back to ask for that in capital. But we do have $16,000 in that, which will allow us to buy 4 new sets of PPE this year. Obviously, the fire station project, which is well underway, don't need to go much in detail with that. Obviously, we greatly appreciate the town's support and partnering with the community to make that a realization. I think it's going to be a great addition to town, and a great little spot, and just beautiful just addition to our town center and our New England town feel. I'm very excited about the progress that's been made, and we're on schedule, so hopefully we stay that way. The last item was actually something that came in late, but one of the things that I try to do is stay on top of, or keep my ears and eyes open for opportunities for us to save money on the capital side, especially by taking advantage of demo apparatus and things of that nature that will allow us to have something that's slightly used, but that hasn't been used as an emergency vehicle per se, but has the necessary equipment and tooling that would allow us to use it. So the last item that we have this year was originally scheduled to be requested next year, but after examining and seeing that we had a potential to save close to $50,000 by going with a demo apparatus for our Car 2 replacement, I discussed it with our town administrator and finance director, and it was in the best interest of the town for us to go ahead and pull the trigger on that. So that is the last item, and that is about $37,000. In the ask for building a new one next year, trying to keep pace with the ridiculous increases that we're all seeing in vehicles and various supplies. I put in and discussing with upfitters that it's costing $75,000 to $85,000 for a vehicle. So when the opportunity came up, I went to the Fire Chiefs Association. We had our Northeast Regional for the International Association of Fire Chiefs in Connecticut, and I went to went for some from continuing education, but also just to see, kick some tires and to look at, some industry trends. And Wayland Engineering had a demo vehicle there, so I inquired about it. They said it was for sale, so I climbed all through it and made sure it, could fit our needs, and it did, and the pricing was very favorable for us, so we took advantage of that. Other than that our capital is, everything else is being either strategically moved or looking at ways to address needs either through grant funding or continuing to maximize the service life of the apparatus we have. Some of the things that we're facing is the enormous increases in cost of apparatus. We were working on an ambulance replacement project, which is on schedule, which we have strategically pushed back another year, and I'm still shocked, honestly, at the pricing and the costs that I'm getting. I've been trying to explore with different manufacturers whether we can do maybe have a letter locking our build slot in or something like that, but I can't get firm pricing on chassis. And originally I was going to budget $400,000 for an ambulance, which is really high in my opinion. And the last meeting I had with Greenwood, which is a popular manufacturer, and even our manufactured our current 2 ambulances, we're going to be looking at probably $500,000 when that time comes. And I think the prices and things are beginning to level off, but the leveling off occurred after there were, in some cases, 60% increases in a 2-year period in the cost of a vehicle. A case in point, a fire apparatus that I brought or had proposed to the town during my first year here was, at that time I had a quote and a written proposal of $1.3 million, which was high then. That exact same vehicle today, Franklin just signed a contract to build that vehicle, and it is going to cost them $2.1 million.
Oh my gosh.
And that is just in a couple of years' time. This isn't, 10 years or anything. So, we're trying to look at ways, and that's the reason I keep my eyes on the demo vehicles and, slightly used apparatus to hopefully save us, from taking that huge financial hit. There are times where I really wish I was maybe a police chief or something like that, where the cost of the apparatus that we're using were less expensive. But when we have our team meetings, discussing capital, I sit in a room and I feel awful because I propose one vehicle and it's more than everybody else's requests combined. But unfortunately, it is what it is, and there's no way around it. At some point, some of our vehicles are going to come up on that hard stop replacement point, and I think fortunately now our DPW, the mechanics are doing a great job. Our mutual aid agreement or a municipal agreement with Foxborough doing some of the routine maintenance and testing has been very advantageous for us and allowed us to better enhance the life and service of our apparatus. So we'll look to continue that and find ways to make this a little bit more affordable moving forward.
We greatly appreciate the efforts of monitoring the demo vehicles that are out there. Absolutely. And being able to, make any savings that you can. I've also noted here that you very clearly identified that we should alert Chief Hines that we should be shifting money from police over to fire.
We'll let you guys fight that out. You have the size, he has the gun.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Anita?
None. Thank you for your...
No, thank you,
Jim?
Chief. No, not at all.
Thank you so much, Chief. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yep, take care.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Todd and all our department heads who, have really been proactive about giving us really good projects and outlining a 5-year capital improvement plan. We're working on doing the capital improvement book, and that we'll have prepared after town meeting, and we'll be putting that online. But it's the work that they do to make it substantive and substantial and a good document. So I do want to thank all those stakeholders for the work that they've done.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. When you say they'll be put online, do you mean they'll be entered into ClearGov, or do you mean that we'll be exploring a different avenue too?
Yeah, let me expand on that. It's through ClearGov.
Mm-hmm.
We will put the capital improvement plan online on our town website, and it'll be via ClearGov.
Very good. Thank you so much. We'll be discussing select board goals at our next meeting. I just got the draft of the outline. We'll be talking timetables, so we'll have something a little more substantive to be able to present the community when we go over it at our next meeting. So that brings us to our next item being the general updates. Right ahead, Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do just want to give another reminder for next week. We do have a special town meeting, which is November 14th at 7 p.m. It's always great to see as many residents showing up to this. We discuss the capital improvement plan. We have new several articles, including stabilization funds and so forth. So it's really important that our residents come and attend that evening. And also, I want to take advantage to announce that we have selected a new deputy fire chief. Our former deputy chief, Mr. Peter Petracek, after over 40 years of service to the town, finally retired. And so I just want to outline briefly for the board and the community. Last year, in winter of last year, the fire chief conducted an assessment with a third-party consultant. We had numerous candidates who came in. They were tested on a variety of things, whether their knowledge, scenarios, and they were tested by other former fire chiefs and so forth. And all of our candidates who were internal, they performed wonderfully. But there was one gentleman that really stood out, and we are really proud to announce that John Kelly, better known as Jack, is now going to be the deputy fire chief, and his official start date was yesterday. So,
Excellent.
I wanted to highlight that for the board.
Congratulations, Deputy Chief Kelly.
Yes, very exciting.
Traditional name in Norfolk Fire.
And those are my updates, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple of updates I'd like to share, but I'll defer to my other board
I
members.
do not have any updates.
Nor do I.
The first one is that the Lions Christmas tree sale will be kicking off on the 18th. For those, you could have answered. Those who do like to go get their tree very, very early, the tree sales will open up on the 18th. They'll be open from 3 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then 9 to 9 p.m. Sunday and Saturday. Why I said it that way, I have no idea. Those trees will be available until they sell out, which typically happens somewhere around the second week of December. We also have two big KP football things coming up. As we mentioned before, the KP football team will be playing its annual rivalry game up at Fenway Park this year. That is going to be on the 21st at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are $20, and you can find the purchase avenue through the KP website. More locally, we have a youth football team that is going to the Eastern Mass Super Bowl this weekend. The 6th grade KP team is going to be playing Easton in like the perfect movie setting. The only time they lost this year was to Easton in the first game of the year by 1 point. Easton went undefeated the rest of the year. Now they meet again in the Super Bowl. So this is going to be a great opportunity for the kids. It's going to be at Franklin High School. That's going to be at 12 noon this coming Sunday. And we would love to be able to make it as much of a home game as possible for the kids. So if you do have the opportunity to get out there, we'd love to see a sea of green.
Well, I'm going to have to put a plug in for the midget hockey team, which the KPW midget hockey team has won the districts and is competing for state championship this year, which should be one of the first for KP. So,
That's awesome.
That's amazing. And what age group?
U18.
Nice.
16, 17-year-olds.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Athletics is strong in the KP districts.
Athletics is strong.
Any other updates from your side, Justin?
No, sir.
All right. Our next item is the report of the warrants. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a second, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And finally, we have an approval of the minutes. Anita, I knew that you were not here for one or two of those meetings.
2 September.
The two
September meetings, so I will be happy to make the motion to approve those two, as Justin did forward them on to me. So if you'd like to make a motion for June, July, and August, I will do September.
I move that we approve the minutes for June 20, 2023, July 18, 2023, and August 15, 2023.
Second.
Hearing a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I will move to approve the meeting minutes for September 5th and for September 19th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'll have to
Aye.
abstain from that, yes?
And an abstention.
Is that
to
correct?
make it a 2-0 to 1 vote. Thank you very much. That does it for our agenda this evening. Justin, anything else before we vote to adjourn?
No, thank you.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you for